get up and lead some songs, and even though we did terrible, they would tell us we did a good job, and this is one of those songs I butchered early on. So I have an early memory of it in my life. I want to spend just maybe 5 minutes talking about, before we get into this song, why even study our songs, and just do a quick summary of some of these ideas for you. But the first thing is, because I think it matters what we sing, and it matters that we sing. It matters that we sing. For our singing to work, for us to actually reach anyone, it's so basic, but we actually have to sing. You know, I travel to a lot of congregations, and I'm sure some of you do as well, and you're always going to see a couple people who you assume are members that aren't singing. And then we have to wonder, well, why is that? But for our singing to work, it matters that we actually sing. You know, it would be hard for us to oppose the congregation just sitting in silence while we sing if we don't sing. And it would be hard for us to even oppose something like an instrument with our worship if we don't sing. Well, because it matters that we sing. It's important that we do. And it's hard for us to oppose any of these other false things if we're not singing out. So it matters that we sing. But also, it's because we are not the only audience. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 19, it says, addressing one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. You know, we often say God is the audience of our worship, which is so true. But have you ever thought about what Ephesians 5:19 here says, that the other people in the congregation are part of that audience as well? In Colossians 3:16 it says this, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing who? One another. For us to teach each other, we actually have to sing. That's important. That's why God has designed it that way, because we don't just sing to God, but we also sing to each other. Have you ever heard someone sing, I'll do anything for Jesus, anywhere with Jesus I can safely go? And you see them singing that, and you know that they have. They've been to the mission field, they've been to rough parts of your city, they've let people stay with them, and you know that they'll do whatever Jesus asks them to. And that pumps you up as you sing that song. So for us, it matters that we sing. But next, it also matters what we sing, which is why we study this. In 1 Corinthians 14:15, it tells us to sing with the Spirit and with the understanding. Well, it matters what we sing. We need to understand what we sing, and we need to mean it. A powerful song could lose its meaning if we don't know what we're saying, or if we sing it without really meaning it. So we have to study the songs because it matters that we sing out, each of us, and it matters what we sing. And then finally, this might be a new thought for you. It was for me as I started thinking about it, but it also matters how we sing. Music can be one of the most direct paths to the heart. You ever hear a commercial, like a little jingle? I've got that BK Have It Your Way song stuck in my head lately, but you hear that and it just sticks in your head. Or I'll hear a commercial, a jingle I haven't heard for years, and it takes me back to my childhood. Music can get to our heart. You'll have sometimes people in a retirement home and they're losing their memories. But you play a song from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and they start to sing. They can't remember their own name and their family, but they can remember the lyrics to that song. Why? Well, because music is a powerful pathway to our heart. And it matters how we sing when we do it. A closed-off person can sometimes not be reached by you or maybe a sermon, but a song can reach them. And it could be our closed-off heart that's reached as we sing. It could be a visitor that's here with us, or it could be a brother or sister in Christ. And we know the real power is in the gospel, the words that we say, but it wouldn't be true to say that it only matters about the words. Because if God was only concerned with the words, wouldn't He have just had us recite these things, just say them? Well, no, He's asked us to sing them. Why? Because there's something powerful and important about how we say these words and that we sing. You and I enjoy a broad range of emotions. Sometimes we say, man, life is so good. Sometimes we say, life stinks right now. I'm lonely, I'm depressed, I'm going through a tough situation. We have all these broad range of emotions, and our songs are designed to bring out each of those. We yell out anthems in exuberance, or in lamentation, we quietly and mournfully sing these songs. Now, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to have these driving, rhythmic songs as we sit at the foot of the cross and we sing about Jesus being crucified. But neither would it be appropriate for us to sing, "Oh, how I love Jesus," at a snail's pace. It matters how we sing. And so let's keep these things in mind as we study our song for tonight. Let's look at the lyrics one more time. Yeah, bigger on yours than mine. That's funny to hear laughter because it feels like a sitcom, like I said something and then everyone was like, ha ha ha, oh you. All right, so some of our songs, it helps to break down and look at the lyrics. That's what we'll do tonight. Let me just read these through for you. Each day I'll do a golden deed by helping those who are in need. My life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. To be a child of God each day, my light must shine along the way. I'll sing His praise while ages roll, and strive to help some troubled soul. The only life that will endure is one that's kind and good and pure. And so for God I'll take my stand, and each day I'll lend a helping hand. I'll help someone in time of need, and journey on with rapid speed. I'll help the sick and poor and weak, and words of kindness to them speak. While going down life's weary road, I'll try to lift some traveler's load. I'll try to turn the night to day, make flowers bloom along the way. And then the chorus, life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days and I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. Now that's a lot of verses, not too many words, not too many sentences, but 5 verses in a chorus. But I noticed 4 main things that run through all of these verses in the chorus, just 4 main things. And that's the 4 things we'll look at tonight. And each of those 4 things can be found in verse number 1 and then throughout the song. So the first thing I noticed is this: each day. Look how many times the idea of daily is referenced. In verse 1, each day. Verse 2, each day and all along the way, which is a daily, continual thing. Verse 3, each day. And verse 5, going down life's weary road, that same continual thing. Every day. Really? Each day, every day, I'll do a golden deed. Every day? You know what you might be signing up for if you sing this song? Now remember, it matters what we sing. Are you committing to doing something for the Lord every day? Now, a song is not just about cramming as many church things as we can get into a song. Let's just make it sound as churchy and as good as we can and then push that through. Because if it was, we could do better than a golden deed each day. And as a matter of fact, I wrote a song where I crammed as many things as I could. And I won't sing it because that would be terrible. Trust me. But I will read it to you. So here's the song I wrote for tonight if we're just going to cram stuff in a song. I'll read my whole Bible every single day. I won't even sleep. I'll stay up to pray. I'll baptize 100 people on the days that are slow, and I'll spend every penny to help the widows. Now that is a good song. We crammed a lot into that song. But here's the key. Do we mean that? That's not possible. That's not a possible pace to keep up. We don't want to sing that because that wouldn't be true. Well, what about this song? Is this something that we can sing? Will we really help someone every day? Now, if not, don't lie in a song. You know, we can sing a lie just like we can say one. But if not, let's set this as a goal to work towards every day. Turn over to Luke chapter 9. I want to pull a couple things out about this idea daily, because I know that's a lot. I know we're asking a lot to ask that of each other, and we're singing a lot and saying a lot when we say it. Let's look at this principle of daily in Luke chapter 9. Now we're going to start in verse 19. You can look there, but just to give you some context, Jesus has just fed 5,000 in this miraculous way, and then he goes off to pray alone. Man, alone time is so good for you. And he goes off to be alone. And his disciples come to him, and Jesus asks them, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" And so they all begin to say, well, some people think that you're John the Baptist, and people think you're the prophet Elijah, which makes sense because someone like Elijah was prophesied to come. Others say one of the prophets of old has risen. And then he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And verses 21 through 22 is very interesting because Peter's response to that question in verse 20 is this: "You are the Christ of God." What a great confession. The most important thing, the biggest deal that you can make about something, this is the promised Messiah, like Genesis 3:15, Genesis 12:3, all these different things looking us towards somebody. You're that somebody. That's the biggest thing. But look what Jesus does in verses 21 and 22. He strictly charged and commanded them to tell this to no one, saying, "The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed on the third day and be raised." So they confessed who Jesus is, which is the biggest deal, and Jesus says, "Shh, don't tell anybody about it. I'm not the kind of king that people are expecting, and they're not ready for the full message that I have to reveal to them yet." And I have to wonder if he wonders if they're ready for it too. But then look what he says in verse 23. And this challenges them, and it's going to challenge me and you. He said to all, if anyone would come after me. Now that's talking to them, but that's me and you, because we had a time in our life where we decided I'm going to come after Jesus and I'm going to follow him. Or if we're not a Christian, that's something that we're thinking about. So this is to all of us. If anybody's going to come after Jesus, know what you're signing up for. Here it is. Let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. Jesus tells them that they're going to need to make a daily commitment to him. If you are a Christian, you signed up for a daily commitment to the Lord. If you're thinking about it, we're not going to soft sell you and tell you, oh, this is just going to be all rainbows and kittens and unicorns and it's beautiful and it's easy and every day gets better and the more Christ-like you are, the richer you get. Of course not. What we're actually going to say is the truth. What you're signing up for, if done correctly, is going to be a daily sacrifice. Now you get those other things too, the rewards and the blessings, and they far outweigh anything else, but this is going to be hard and it's going to be daily. The service to Jesus and other people that you and I are to commit is a daily thing. Now, in some ways, wouldn't it be easier if Jesus asked us to do some big one-time thing? That's what Naaman the leper wanted to do. He wanted to meet the prophet and be healed by some miraculous donation. I made a donation in the name of the prophet, and they named a library after him, and now I'm saved. But when he was told just obey, he kind of balked at that. In the next chapter, Luke chapter 10, Jesus is going to talk to a lawyer that's testing him, and he's asking him questions. What are the greatest commandments in the law? In one spot, Jesus tells him, and in another story, this guy tells Jesus, but the answer is the same. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. And really, the Bible could be condensed to that sentence, and the rest of us helps us understand that. But love God and love other people. And the problem comes, the lawyer wants to then know who his neighbor is. But in Luke 10, Jesus tells a story about the Good Samaritan. And he tells this guy, he's basically saying, what one-time thing, the Greek brings this out, what one-time thing could I do to be saved? And Jesus says, no, it's not that. It's loving God and loving your neighbor. It's a daily sacrifice. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 16, we're told, do not lose heart. We do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. Now, how can we be renewed day by day? Well, because the Christian life is a daily religion. Look at Acts chapter 2 with me. I want you to notice a few things there. Now, we go to Acts 2 all the time, and those of us in the church, we love the idea of restoration. What if we could just abandon creeds and names and traditions and pick up just a Bible and do what that says? And so that's the goal. That's what we want to do. And Acts chapter 2 is a good blueprint for that. And we often go there and we ask our denominational friends, we say, will you abandon that and just be saved like they were? Will you abandon the instrument and the denominationalism and worship just like they were? And we get some of that from Acts 2, and that's so true. But there is a lot more to Acts chapter 2 than just how people are saved and just how they worship. It's also how they act afterwards. Look at verse 42. I want you to just see all the spots I have underlined there, and I have them in my Bible. And look at these ideas of daily. Verse 42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread, the prayers, and all came on every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who were believed were together and had all things in common. Look at verse 46, and day by day. Look at verse 47, the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. Now I'm in a group on Facebook called Praise Reports Churches of Christ. That's a terrible name. I didn't name it, but it's a pretty good group. And if you're on Facebook, I would suggest you join it because people will go in there, members of the church, and they'll post about baptisms. Like I'll post if I baptize somebody or there's a baptism at our congregation, but also if I see the Parish Church of Christ post one, I'll look in that group, and if nobody's posted it, I'll post it. So what you'll see is day after day, dozens of baptisms each day. And it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging to see that. And if we rewrote Acts chapter 2 and verse 47, it might say something different. Because what I see is, you know what day by far has the most baptisms of the week? Anybody want to guess? Sunday. Now why is that? Well, we're together on Sundays and we talk about spiritual things. If we rewrote Acts 2:47, it may say, and the Lord added to their number on Sundays. Because sometimes that's all we get together and that's all we talk about spiritual things. But not with them. No wonder they added to their number every day. They were together all the time. And so Acts chapter 2 is a principle for us to be together often and to live our Christian life daily. And if we don't do this, do we believe in restoration or not? Christianity is a daily religion. You know, there was a time, look at these verses, where Jesus taught daily in the temple. Of course he did that, but there was a time he taught every single day. In Acts chapter 6, those 7 men, godly men who were chosen to serve the widows, it says what they were in charge of was the daily food distribution. For those of you who have helped with VBS food, we're thankful for you. We are so thankful for you. You want to do it tomorrow too? What about Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday? That's a hard job. But that's what these men were doing in Acts chapter 6, the daily distribution of the food. We're told that Paul reasoned for 2 years in the hall of Tyrannus in Ephesus. And he had a daily pressure and anxiety for all the churches in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. We often talk about those Jews that were in Berea. They were more noble than those in Thessalonica. Why? Well, because they studied the Bible, the Scriptures, every single day to be sure that what they were being taught was true. And that's no wonder we read in Acts 16:5, the early churches were strengthened in the faith and they increased in their numbers daily. Well, yeah, I would imagine. Jesus was a daily kind of guy. Paul was a daily kind of guy. The 7 men in Acts chapter 6 were daily kind of people. And so no wonder the church grew every single day. Now, if we aren't growing today, what's the difference? Is the worship different? No, it's not. Is the plan of salvation that we teach any different than Acts 2? No, it's not. But might it be that we're not enough of a daily kind of religion? Now, which of our days needs more religion in it? What could you do on Monday to have more of a daily Christianity? How could your Tuesday be shaped just a little bit differently? What if you got up earlier, went to bed a little bit later? What if you reframed some of the things that you do? What if instead of, when you're on a little break from work or whatever you may be doing, instead of playing an app on your phone, what if you just texted one of the elders, how can I help? I'm praying for you. What if you found somebody and you said, they're not a Christian, but I'm going to pray for them and I'm going to text them a scripture a day? I don't know, but something practical. What could you do to make your religion a little bit more daily? I heard a story about David Shannon a few years ago, and his dad moved to Long Island, New York, and he wanted to be a missionary. But he, A, didn't really want to have support, and B, he's like, okay, now what do I do to meet non-Christians? So he just got a job at a potato chip factory. This is David Shannon's dad. And in a couple of years, he had baptized, you know what, a couple hundred people. Because what he did is he said, when I get to the line at the potato chip factory, I'm going to be the best worker here, and I'm going to talk nonstop about Jesus to the person beside me. And they're either going to listen and be interested, or they won't be, and that'll be the end of it, or they're going to ask to be moved off the line. And you know what will happen when they do that? Somebody else will come and take their place. And I bet he talked to way more than 200 people. But in 2 years, he reached 200 of them. Why? Because he put a little bit more Jesus in his day. He went to where the lost were and made Jesus a part of his daily life. Here's the second thing that you notice. What time do we stop, Joey? 6:50. I'll be done about 7:30, but 6:50. I'll see. We'll see. Number two, I'll. Each day, I'll. Look at all the spots in yellow where that personal pronoun is used. I, my, I'll, my, I'll. You know what? There's not a single we in this song. It's a personal thing. Now, there is a time for we, a big time for we, but there's also a time for I. I want to tell you an example I heard from B.J. Clark once. He said an elephant and a flea were going through the jungle. And the flea was on the back of the elephant, and they were best of friends. And they get to one of these bridges, you know, like in Chattanooga, it just swings over the valley below. And they are wondering, should we take this bridge? It looks like it's about to collapse into the valley. And so they talk about it, and they decide to do it. So they step out on the bridge, and one of the planks falls, and dust goes everywhere, and they're scared, but they walk all the way across. And as soon as they step foot on the other side, the bridge collapses. And the flea looks back over his shoulder and says, look what we did. Now, what did the flea do? Absolutely nothing. The elephant did the heavy lifting in that story. The flea was just along for the ride. If we have too much we in our religion and not enough I, we could be like this flea and just along for the ride. And that's why I like this song, because it focuses, and I love the we. The Acts 2:44, all that believed were together and had all things in common, but I also know the importance of I. Look over at Ephesians chapter 4. And you know how it is, Joey, like when you've read this passage 100 times. I had too. But one day I read this and something different clicked to me, and I love when that happens. But Ephesians 4:11 through 16, he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers. Now this is exciting because we're about to find out, why did we have prophets? Why did we have evangelists and apostles? We still have pastors, shepherds, elders, and teachers today. So this is important to me. Now, in some places it might read like this: He gave us those people to do everything for us. But is that what it says? Look at verse 12. Here's the reason we have those leadership roles, is to equip the saints for the work of ministry. Have you ever thought about that? One of the reasons we have elders and preachers and teachers and deacons and these things is to get us, normal members, ready for the work of ministry. And as leaders, one of our jobs and goals needs to be to get the average member in the pew doing the work of ministry. Now, it's no surprise when you read through this. Look at these things I've underlined. You'll have the building up of the body of Christ. This is when everybody's doing an I religion. You'll grow up to mature manhood. You'll grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. When each part is working properly, it makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. Now, Galatians chapter 2 and verse 20 is another good verse, and this would make a good song someday. But look at all the I's in this. Paul says, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And so on the song goes. Paul knows that there is a we, and there's a stuff that only God and Jesus and the Spirit can do, but there's also an I that's important in religion. Now, I'm not a church growth expert. I have been at places that have grown, but I'm not a full-time preacher. So it's kind of like I'm cheating. Like, I want to be a preacher when I grow up, but I'm just a regular old member. But I'm not an expert in church growth. But I do know how to kill a church, hire a guy, and expect him to do everything for you. But a good model of growth is in the Bible. And it says, equip the saints for the work of ministry, and that will lead to the building up of the body. Each person doing their part every day. Me, I will take this personally. Next, you'll notice in the song the idea of do. Now, I thought about highlighting every word that was in one of these first 3 points, but you know what would have happened? Every single word would have been yellow, because that's the main theme of this song. Each day, I'll do. Now, you know Hebrews chapter 11, faith's hall of fame. What does it say about each of those people? By faith, they did. Christianity is a doing religion. And we can see from all the things that are in yellow there in that song. Now, let me pull out a few of these. In the songbook, this hymn actually has a Bible verse above it. I don't know if yours does, but most do. And that Bible verse is Luke chapter 10 that we referenced earlier, verses 33 and 34 about the Good Samaritan. And that's part of that interaction with the lawyer. So I want to read Luke chapter 10, verses 33 through 34. It says, But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him, and he bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, and then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn, and he took care of him. I want us to look at these two things that the Good Samaritan did. He had compassion, and he took care of him. His religion was a doing religion. The first thing, he had compassion. That is what Jesus is asking of you. To have compassion for our world. Think about the things that go on in our world that are terrible. Think about people who have abortions. Do you care about that? You think about people that do it only because they feel like that's the only choice they have, and they don't even know how to get help. Do you feel bad about that? I know you do. Do you care that people sometimes go to bed without food, without power, without a bed? More importantly, do you care that people sometimes go to bed with great meals, wonderful beds, and all the AC and heat they can stand, but they're lost and don't even know it? You know, in Acts chapter 2, when Christians heard that first gospel sermon after the resurrection, you know what their reaction was? They were pricked in their hearts. I just wonder sometimes, can I be pricked in my heart? When Jesus looked over a lost Jerusalem, do you know what he did? He cried. You know what Paul did when he saw a lost Jewish nation? He said, if you guys could be saved, I would sacrifice myself and I would be lost. When's the last time that we cried when we heard a song, when we heard a sermon or a scripture? You know, if I don't hurt for the lost and the hurting in this world, then I'm not all the way like Jesus yet. Let's pray, God, please give me a tender heart to notice and to care about the lost and the hurting. And so that's the first thing he did, is he saw it and he cared about it. And Jesus asked us to do the same. But next, he did something about it. He cared. I'm going to list some of the things that are in this song that it's asking us to do. Do a golden deed, helping those who are in need. My light must shine along the way. I'll sing his praise. Strive to help some troubled soul. These are the do things in this song. Each day I'll lend a helping hand. I'll help someone in time of need. I'll help the sick and poor and weak. Words of kindness, that's the sick, the poor, the weak. To them I'll speak. I'll try to lift some traveler's load. I'll try to turn the night to day, make flowers bloom along the way, because I must go and meet the deeds that I have done. Well, let's think about a few of these. Let me issue you a challenge. This is a daily thing. How have you done these things recently? What are the things that you have done today, this week, this month? Let's even do this year. What are the things that you could put on your list that were a golden deed that you've done? The second thing the song mentions, helping those who are in need. Who have you helped? The specifics. Who's someone that you've helped and how? How have you shined your light along the way? Be specific. What did that look like as you were going? How did you shine the light of the gospel to someone at school or to someone at work or to someone in the community or someone that's lost in your family? What's a specific way that you did that? How often? Now it says daily I'll sing his praise. How often do you sing the praise of the Lord? Singing is not just for worship. Do you sing as you walk through your house, as you take a shower, as you drive your car to work? Do you sing God's praises on Facebook? Do you sing his praises before the lost that you work with? When is the last time we did these things? Which troubled soul have we helped lately? What's their name? How'd you help? Each day I'll lend a helping hand. Who'd you do that to today? Who'd you do that to yesterday? If nobody, who will you do that to tomorrow? I'll help the poor and sick and weak. Now that's specific. Who have you helped that's poor? Who have you helped that's weak? Who have you helped that's sick? And then what kind of things have you said to them to build them up? We're all traveling down life's road. Which traveler have you made their journey easier? Man, there's some people, they just live, it seems like, to make your journey harder. They want to always rain on your parade. Who could look at you and say, man, that person makes my life easier. When I'm around them, so much better because they're so helpful. Whose life have you made more beautiful? You know, Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 11 says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. You know, man, how good does it feel for someone to praise you, to encourage you? Well, we can be that for someone because we've got to go meet the deeds that we've done. Now, this song was written by William Golden, and the song starts, each day I'll do a, what kind of deed? Golden. Now, I have wondered, did he sneak his name into the song? Now, what about us? Could we replace that word golden and put our name in and it still mean the same thing? Because that's what's being asked of us. And when we sing this song, that's what we're singing. And then this is the fourth thing. We'll finish with this quickly. He ended on this note and brings it up in almost every verse. My life on earth is but a span. Now this song was written, as I mentioned, by William Golden. He also wrote the song Where the Soul Never Dies. Do you know that song? Where the Soul Never Dies. So William, to me, seems to be somebody that thought a lot about the end of life, and he thought a lot about eternity. And really this song, like in some ways it's upbeat, each day I'll do a golden deed, but there is a heaviness to this song too, in the tune and in the melody and even in some of the ideas. But there's a theme running through this song, and it's this: life is short and death is certain. Now I think this is a somber song, but it's not a depressing song. It's just a serious song. Look, this is the reality of it. Even if we have a beautiful life, and even if it's a long life, death is certain and life is short. And William wanted us to know that and think about it and sing about it. But I think it's that certainty of death that makes life so beautiful, because it makes each moment mean so much. Every word, every deed, every action, it matters. The uncertainty of life was seen in William's life too. He died in a car wreck in 1934, just at the age of 56. In Psalm chapter 90 and verse 10, it says, the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80, but their span is but toil and trouble, and they're soon gone, and we fly away. And James says life is like a vapor. You know, there's the song, Jesus is Coming Soon, and I've gone back and forth from I sang that and didn't even think about what I was singing to, well, no, he's not, that's premillennialist. But now I kind of think, well, you know what? Really? He is. He's either going to come soon by the fact that I'm not going to live forever, and I have an expiration date on my life, or he's going to come back before I die. But life is short and death is certain. We're told that our deeds go ahead of us, and we'll meet them there. here are some excuses that we could make. And I want to put this up here just to share my contact information. Sometimes when a speaker speaks, he gets something wrong, and I just want to let him know about it. And I'm inviting you to do that if that's been the case. Sometimes I want to get their notes or ask them a question. So if there's any way I can help you, I want you to stay in touch with me. But here are some excuses that we could make. We could say, well, I will when I'm older. Well, I would if I was younger. If I had more money, I would help. Well, if I'm busy. If I had more time, I would help. You know, I could really do it if I could just get some help around here. And all of these are challenges, no doubt. But every life stage and circumstance that you'll ever be in is going to bring some challenges with it. Our challenge is not to let these challenges turn into excuses. What can you do now with what you've got? And that's all God is asking. Do what you can while you can, because the night is coming when no man can work. You know, really, I think this song should probably come with a warning label, because it will either make us liars or better Christians. Each day, I'll do. You know, my life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. And I hope that you mean that. I hope that I do. I pray that we do. But this song, thankfully, and I want to end with this idea, thankfully this song doesn't tell the whole story, because this song is about our part. But with our part alone, it wouldn't be enough, would it? The best among us would fall short. Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23, Jesus is talking about some people that will not inherit eternal life. And they did all these great things, but that didn't matter because they didn't do the will of the Father. God doesn't demand perfection, but He does demand our faithfulness. Let's not waste our trying to live a beautiful life, the name of our song, without inviting Jesus to be a part of it. A beautiful life begins by becoming a Christian. In John 3, Jesus says, be born of water and the Spirit, born again. In Romans 6, they're told to end that old life by dying in the waters of baptism and walking in a newness of life. And that's how you start your new life. Without Jesus, all the good deeds in the world lose their meaning. I'll do the best I can, and for the Christian, God meets us there. Are you doing your part? If not, each day I'll do. God has done His part if you'll do yours. Joey, do you offer an invitation song? Or do you have a song? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.